Check podcasts.
The Bread and Butter Collective is a collection of hospitality professionals working together to help strengthen our industry to build strong culture, community, and sustainability.
I'm Calen McNeil.
And I'm Sam Jones. And this is the Bread and Butter Podcast.
Welcome to the Bread and Butter Podcast. How are you, Sam?
I'm fantastic. Calen, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I've been working a lot.
I see that.
Yeah.
I see your morning Instagram posts. I think they're awesome.
I'm trying to do Instagram. I really don't like it.
Well,
I don't
dude,
like my
you just
own.
gotta
I don't like other
listen,
people's.
we're being controlled by higher beings that are all knowing, and they're billionaires, and we trust that they know they have our interest in mind.
Oh, that's why my mind feels like mush.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't have to think anymore.
No, it's actually been great. I've been working a lot of bar shifts, and yeah, it's
Has it been good getting in touch with the customers again?
Yeah, I mean, I've had customers for 30 years, and I got people still coming. I got people with their grandkids coming now who are
so
coming
cool.
up. Yeah, it's multi-generational,
Yeah.
and I mean, this is why we're in the business, right?
Yeah.
Is for our customers.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
It's been a
There's
blast.
no other reason why we did it.
It's not for the money?
No, it's not.
Oh, I thought oh no, it is for the customers, but I am finding that like I'm working on my coordination, like my hand coordination to get things smooth, and man, it is.
So it's only an hour to get an Americano at your spot?
Only 45 minutes.
When you're working?
I aim for 45, but we always hit 1.
Yeah.
No, it's been great, and I go home and I feel like I've had a really full day.
I love it.
With
You're actually working now.
Yeah, and I'm not checking emails for a week because I can't. No phones behind the bar.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's my excuse not to answer phone calls or reply to emails.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I love when I have those, when I book a day where I don't do anything.
Yeah.
And usually I was just doing Mondays, but now it's like Mondays and Fridays and the odd Tuesday. And I'm sure I'm working.
You should space it out for Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That way you only have to really be in communication 2 days a week.
2 days a week. I like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
You can get a lot done in 2 days a week if you have to.
Well, speaking of getting a lot done.
Oh, my God.
We've got our
Absolutely.
lovely guest on today. It's Emily Lycopolus. She's everything olive oil. Emily, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you. Where'd you start? What are you doing?
Thank you, and thanks so much for having me. It's Emily, such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's so great to have you. I mean, we go back to Hudson days.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Emily had all of the Senses store in the Hudson with her husband, Steve.
Oh, yes.
And I was doing the coffee shop on the corner.
Yeah.
So,
We opened within weeks of each other.
Yeah. It was amazing times.
It was.
Yeah.
It was crazy times. Yes. But no, I'm an olive oil sommelier and professional olive oil taster. And I got started in this industry about 15 years ago. My husband's family, Steve, has a olive grove in Italy. And that's where I kind of fell in love with fresh olive oil and then couldn't find it here. So my background's in chemistry and I dove into the science. I was like, I've got to figure out why. I can go to the cheese shop and spend, a little bit more, get the cheese I want. I can find good bread at, Folopy and other bakeries and things, but why can't I find good olive oil? Why does the $6 bottle taste like the $60 bottle? And so I went down a rabbit hole and I'm, still running down it 15 years later.
Yeah.
So cool. What an interesting area. I mean, I know a little bit about olive oil, only in that we use olive oil in our Italian restaurant.
Mm-hmm, of course.
So the idea that there's an olive oil sommelier here really kind of is interesting. I never even occurred to me that there would be.
Yeah. There's only 4 of us in North America. There's about 70 globally. So we're a scarce bunch.
Wow. Yeah.
That is scarce.
And how do you go about training to be an olive oil sommelier?
You taste a lot of really bad oil. No. It's a long process. I've taken courses at UC Davis in California, at the International Culinary Center in New York. And then most recently, I've been training with the oldest olive oil school in Italy, well, globally. They started in 1983 and actually informed the International Olive Council method of tasting that was released in 1991. Wow. And so with them, I have a tasting team. I'm tasting at least a monthly, if not more often, with them, and we taste virtually. So I get samples mailed. I have way too many bottles in my office to taste, but no, it's a very long process to become a professional olive oil taster through that through ONAO, the National Organization of Olive Oil Tasters in Italy, is a 3-year process. So it's a lot of tasting.
Wow.
Yeah, taste all the time.
Oh my God, I do quite a bit of tasting with coffee, but it's not the same thing. You can't become a coffee sommelier yet, but an olive oil sommelier, that's fun.
Yeah, it is.
I've had some olive oils from you that taste like popcorn. I've had olive oils from you that taste like jalapeno. What's making, because they're just olive oils, they're not flavored, right? So how do you go from tasting like olives to tasting like buttered popcorn?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think most people don't realize that olives, straight off the tree, if you've ever eaten one, the most bitter, disgusting thing you've ever tried.
Yeah.
And so to make eating olives, table olives, they actually have to be debittered, and it's like taking a cucumber and making it into a pickle. So all table olives are processed, but there's more varieties of olives than there is of grapes. So walk into big, beautiful wine store, you see all of the varieties, blends, options. You can do that and more with olive oil. So there's well over 2,000 different individual documented varietals. They all have their own unique flavor profile, character. And terroir plays a huge part into the way an olive oil tastes. But the other side, which is a little bit less so on the wine side, but more on the olive oil side, is that the milling changes it hugely. So the way that the oil is extracted, the amount of time, temperature, the equipment that's used to extract the oil when harvest timing happens is huge. You can have an oil extracted, today and in 2 weeks, and it will taste entirely different
From the same crop.
from like the same neighboring trees. Pick this row this week and pick that row next week, and it'll taste completely different just based on ripeness. So there's so many factors that affect the flavor profile of the olive oil, from, like I said, varietal, milling methods, storage. There's so many things that affect it. But you can have oils that taste like hot butter popcorn. They're really, really buttery and creamy. Some taste like peaches and nectarines. I've had some that taste like mangoes. And then on the other side, you have super spicy oils that taste like jalapeno. They have this capsicum finish. There's over 250 known tasting notes in olive oil, so not quite as many as wine, but the variety is
that
quite
just
incredible.
a byproduct of when they pick it? Or in how they're doing it?
So it's all the
there's
enzymatic
nothing-
reactions. So the interesting thing is the olive itself, the oil is just a colorless liquid fat. And it's held in these vacuoles inside the olive. So these little tiny pockets of lipids. And then typically oleoeuropein is the main antioxidant that's found in olives. And it undergoes enzymatic reactions as it's introduced to oxygen in the malaxing process. So the olive is crushed, and that crushing pops the pit, of course, pops those vacuoles, and then it goes into like a KitchenAid mixer. So the paste is then kneaded, and that process is extracting the oil, coaxing it out of the flesh, but then it's also infusing the olive with itself. So all of these enzymatic reactions are occurring, and that's where you're getting different like aldehydes and esters and literally like chemical reactions are happening. And then that 18 to 20 minute process, depending on the temperature of the paste, the amount of oxygen contact, all sorts of different things that are happening. Pit to flesh ratio, how much pit is in it. Pit typically makes an oil more buttery. If you have a bigger pit and less flesh, there's so many factors in the actual olive itself. And then it's separated through a centrifuge, a mechanical centrifuge. And so that, separating the layers again will allow the water to be removed, and then you can preserve those flavors. But all of that magic happens, we would say, in the malaxer in that 18 to 20 minutes during the in the extraction process, which is fascinating.
Wow.
How does one supplier get the consistent flavor? Like, imagine if you've got your X brand and you've got this olive oil, and people would expect the same flavor.
So there's two factors to that. One, it's always different every year, just like wine. You're never going to get a consistent profile. There are olives like Picual, for example. It's the most common olive variety grown in Spain. There's over 1 million hectares of it planted. It tastes like fresh green tomatoes. Like, it just always like that's a main tasting note of that olive cultivar. It's always going to be tomatoey. Tomato leaf if it's an early harvest, ripe or juicy tomato if it's a later harvest, but it's always tomatoey. And then most larger brands blend. And so that's where you can get like the Tuscan IGP, for example. We expect a flavor that tastes like arugula and artichoke and a little bit of apple and a big peppery finish on the end. It's got this like mustard green, kale green, really bitter green flavor profile. And that's a blend of Moriolo, Frontoio, and Lucchino. And those three can be placed in different ratios, but it's always a blend of those three olives. And so depending on the year, depending on the yield, depending on the weather and all the factors will allow that oil to be a little bit more consistent every year just because they can blend it.
So fascinating.
There's so much to it. So once the olives pick, when you eat a raw olive, you're right. It's like most astringent thing. It just sucks all the moisture out of your mouth. It feels like. Are the olives then dried or fermented?
No.
Or no?
No.
Okay.
So it is I always like to say that God gave us one fruit that had oil as instead of oil. Like the oil is the juice. And every other fruit we know, if you think about oranges and whatnot, all the juice is always water-based. And for whatever reason, the olive has lipid-based juice. So the olive oil is fresh fruit juice. So that's actually one of the definitions of extra virgin grade, which most people don't know. Most people assume extra virgin means first press, cold press, which is 100% North American marketing.
Yeah,
no
okay.
intrinsic value. So extra virgin means that the olive is mechanically extracted. So no chemicals are involved in the process. It can only be made from olives, and that there's no sensory defects, and that there is evidence of the fresh olive present in the fruit. So it has to have a fruity sensation above 0 on the scale of fruitiness of 1 to 10. So when you're making an extra virgin olive oil, there's no fermentation. Fermentation is a defect. So you want it to be as fresh as possible. You need to decrease the amount of time from tree to extraction. So ideally, industry standard is 24 hours. Ideally, it's 4 to 6 hours from pick to extraction. So again, kind of differentiating from the wine industry, there's a bit of time to play. You can pick the grapes. There's time in the tanks to kind of evolve the flavors and make what you want. Everyone is holding their breath when you're in harvest time for olives, because the moment that olive leaves the tree, it starts to change. It starts to ferment. Molecular reactions start happening. The olive likes to be attached to, it's like the umbilical cord. You break it, it's not happy. So it needs to be preserved as quickly as possible. So pick to extraction, like I said, ideally 6 hours.
So do most plantations, I don't know if you, are they called plantations?
Groves.
Groves? Do most groves then have an extractor on site to reduce that travel time?
So in Spain, yes. It's very common to have mills on site in Spain. In Italy, there's more community mills. Same with Greece, there's a lot of community mills. But you're never far from one.
Right.
So, it's always, within an hour's drive, I would say. There's been a ton of advances, especially in California. Actually, I didn't bring any of Sam's oil with me today, but Sam is a friend of mine. He's in California, and he built, he built a mill inside a transport truck.
Oh.
So he actually takes the mill to the grove to be able to, decrease that pick to extraction time. So, there's tons of innovation. There's a lot of mechanical harvesting that's allowing quality at scale, rather than a lot of hand picking that still happens within the European market. So California was really the experimentation grounds for mechanical harvesting and planting olives in rows, so it's hedged. And then they have like this huge harvester that like engulfs the trees.
Yeah,
and
like
picks
a
them.
combine.
Yeah, it's like a combine kind of thing that combs through.
Is that better? Like, wouldn't you get all the olives off the trees, whether they're ripe or not, and when you get twigs and sticks and leaves?
So you do kind of no matter the method, so that the olives always go through a fan to get rid of sticks, leaves, stones, and then they're always washed and dried before the oil's extracted, because of course you don't want dirt, mold, spores, whatever. They've been outside for 100 days. They need to have a bath. But if you don't dry the olives after they're washed, if you leave that water on the fruit, you decrease your antioxidant content about 10%. So it decreases shelf life and changes a lot of the characteristics of the oil if you have that little bit of water introduced. So always washed and dried before extracted.
And are they dried just by air?
Yeah,
or
usually
by
just
the
a blower.
sun?
Yeah,
Okay.
no. Yeah, you don't have time for
time
sun.
for the sun, huh?
Yeah, exactly. No, there's no time. And cooled is also, cooled extraction, cold pressed. No one's there's no regulatory body making sure that the oil is extracted cold, but it really matters. Like the colder, the better in many circumstances. And, beautiful day south of Greece in the middle of October. It's not cold outside, machines running, it's hot. And it's really important that the paste is kept cold because that prevents oxidation and limits a lot of the enzymatic reactions to ensure stability as well as consistent flavor profile throughout the shelf life of the oil. So.
Wow.
So are they put in fridges or something?
Sometimes they are, yeah. Sometimes they are if you need to, like if you haven't been able to harvest enough for a day. I know my aunt, she lives about 2 hours from the mill that she takes her olives to, and she actually clears all of the furniture in her living room because she has a, tile floor and it's cold in the living room, especially this time of year. It turns off all the heat and lays the olives on the floor to keep them cold.
Oh.
But between a few days, and then she'll take all of her olives to the mill at one point. So.
Wow. So is she making that for personal use or
Yeah.
she personal?
Yeah, she just makes it for her, and there's 3 families that share it. So.
Now, does she have a olive grove herself? Like, does she in her
does.
backyard?
Yeah. It's essentially
Wow.
her backyard.
So cool.
Just a few hundred trees.
Is that fairly common?
Very common in Europe. Yeah, very, very common.
That people just grow for their own
Of
consumption?
course. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's where you get the community mills because, of course, you're not going to have a tabletop, in your house. And so you get these community mills that all they do is mill. Typically, they don't have trees. And so you can bring your olives to the mill and sometimes they're like you have your time slot, you show up, this is when you can, and then there's other times if you don't necessarily have enough, you sell your olives to the mill and then you get X amount. So based on weight, they'll get
give
X
you
amount of oil
You get like a
in
credit.
return.
oil
Exactly.
credit.
Yeah, exactly. So it takes about 10 kilos of olives to make a liter of oil. So it's a significant. So you bring in your couple 100 pounds of olives and then you
Wow.
take
But that's actually
home your-
feels like it's not a lot.
It's not.
10 kilos per liter feels like a pretty good turnover.
It's about, well, if a high yield is about 20%, low is 7 to 11.
Okay.
And the last couple of years we've been operating around an 11 to 13% yield.
Okay.
So.
Is that to do with the weather changes or just the?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with weather and climate. There wasn't rain in Spain this year, so they're looking at lower yields than they were hoping because they did have a lot of water, especially in the south of Spain. And Spain sets the market. They produce almost half the world's olive oil. So in Andalusia, there's, if you've ever been, as far as the eyes can see, all you see is olives. Literally every direction. It's kind of the craziest monoculture you can imagine because there's no other vegetation. It's just olives. And it's hours. You can drive down the road for hours and all you see is olive trees. It's a little bit creepy in some way. Like it's beautiful. They call it the Sea of Olives, but it's impressive. And so the Spanish market really does set the price. They set everything for the olive oil industry globally.
Is there a conglomerate or some kind of mafia
Absolutely.
in olive oil
Absolutely.
that also helps dictate prices? And
in some ways, yes. The interesting thing with olive oil, so yes, the mafia is definitely still involved. I think the Corleone family is still going well.
Really?
Oh yeah.
The slippery guys.
yeah, exactly. But no, the olive oil industry is interesting, but with the grading, so like I said, extra virgin grade, there's virgin grade Lampante, there's many different grades of olive oil, and those are all set by human taste. So it's the only food commodity that is graded, and its commodity category is based on someone tasting it, a tasting panel saying this, yes, check the box, is extra virgin grade. It's not like other commodities where, bean, corn, soy, whatever, you can tell this is what it is.
Do those people have to be olive oil sommeliers?
Exactly.
Like
yeah. So
Yeah,
they
okay.
train to be on a panel. They work very hard to be on a panel. And again, because of the mafia and other factors, no one on a panel is paid. So even though the farmers do have to pay for the testing, you are never paid to be a panel member. It's all
Not
volunteer.
officially.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's why, is because people would be paid off. Because again, if, say extra virgin in Spain is going at $5.50, virgin might be $3.85. That's a big difference. So,
Right. Yeah. I got a couple questions with that. Are you tasting every olive oil from every region when you're doing this panel, or just like how do they just the different they've set the price on different types of olive oil, and they're just tasting that type based on.
No. So the panels are typically regional.
Okay.
So they're local panels. A lot of them are connected to the DOP if there is one in the area, because they're, again, regional taste, regional flavor profiles. A lot of them are connected to universities and labs, because, again, it's scientific. We talk about calibrating our palates. It's a very scientific process. It's very mechanical. It's very regulated. No coffee, always between 10 and 12 in the morning, hour after you eat, an hour before you get hungry. Like, there's a lot of process that goes into the tasting. We always try and taste a variety of oil so you don't get stuck in, a rut, because of course, if you're in the south of Spain, you're tasting Picual all day long. But no, there is a lot of training that goes into it.
So when is the price set? So like a market, like is this a commodity that's traded on the
European Stock Exchange?
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the international
there's futures on it.
Absolutely,
and,
I was
hedging.
absolutely, yeah. A friend of mine, so they had a lot of rain in Spain in spring, and then so they thought they'd have good yields this year. So he ended up buying futures in July, and the prices doubled, and he's like, I'm so grateful that I, pulled out my checkbook in July and bought all this oil, because, now it would have been double.
Yeah.
And so, the price is constantly fluctuating. Right now, the market's locked because no one really knows how much volume they have on the market, what's kind of going to happen. So January is probably when we'll get more data and details. A lot of it is informed by the International Olive Council, which is a division of the United Nations. And so that was set up in 1956 to be able to essentially support the export of olive oil and create these kind of commodity categories to make the sale a little bit more consistent. So there's lots happening at the International Olive Council level, and then throughout the industry.
Is there a byproduct for the meat that's?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of things, because there's a lot of waste.
I have great questions.
You do have great questions. It's not all just meat.
Yeah, you come up with the best ones, but I can throw a good one in there.
But I know the answer is tapenade, right?
Not quite. Although they call it tamponade.
Oh,
but it's not tamponade.
Oh.
But that's the technical word for it, guys, is tamponade. But the leftover olive flesh, the leftover paste and pits, for fertilizer, is a huge one. They'll dry it and use it for heat. They'll compress it and use it as bricks for like pellet stoves. They're actually starting to use it as a soil amendment as well, like in charcoal, essentially for home house plants and things. And then UC Davis in California is doing a bunch of studies right now because it's incredibly nutritional. So you think about all the health benefits associated with olive oil and all the research in that aspect of it, only about 10 to 15% of the antioxidants are actually transferred into the oil. So it's highly nutritional. So they're doing a lot of work to see how they can turn it into a supplement, how we can make it edible in a different format so that we can still retain all of those health benefits from the leftover flesh.
So is there a market for that as well? So if you're bringing it to the spot where they're going to, you're going to drop off whatever kilograms of olives and then get back whatever liters in olive oil, and then they're taking that mush.
So the mill has to deal with the waste. So there's two different kinds of mills. One kind of gives you a sludgy mixture, and then the other gives you dried cakes and then a water runoff. So trying to deal with the water waste is really challenging because it has such a high nutritional profile. It can't just be dumped on a field. And so that is really challenging to deal with settling ponds and whatnot. So most of the time they're leaning now towards that kind of sludgy mixture, and then they can send that to the pomace olive oil mill. So pomace oil is a chemically extracted oil. It is not mechanical. It's a completely different category. So that's the difference between virgin and pomace is mechanical extraction, chemical extraction. So the pulp could go to the pomace mill and be chemically extracted to get that last 3 to 5% out of the pulp. On the other side, again, it can be processed into many different things. So there's a whole market for it, and the mill is responsible to deal with the waste. But there's millions.
So that's a byproduct of, so they can make more money on it.
Absolutely.
Fascinated. So climate change, how is that impacting olive oil industry and what we can expect?
Like it's everybody everywhere all the time.
Well, we look at coffee and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so drought, there's many different aspects of climate change wreaking havoc in the olive oil industry right now. The main one I would say is drought. Olive trees are incredibly drought resilient. They take about 15 times less water than nut trees.
Oh,
So a
interesting.
lot of people are converting nut farms and fruit farms into olives because they don't have a tap root. They keep their roots, they're only about 3 feet from the surface, and their root network is these little tiny roots that go out 3 times the circumference of the tree approximately, and they get their water from the dew. So even if
Oh,
you don't get
interesting.
a lot of
Yeah.
rain, they can still survive, which is
So
pretty incredible.
they must be right under the surface, then, eh?
Yeah, yeah, they
Wow.
are. Yeah, if
Okay.
you've ever seen them like try and pull up a tree, it's kind of crazy because they'll like the root balls little to pull the tree
And
up. It's
almost
all
like you
these
can
little
push it
roots.
over.
They're
Almost.
great at preventing erosion though, because of
Yeah.
these little roots right at the surface. They
Yeah.
anchor that soil down, which is really great. So they're often used in sandy situations where they don't want erosion, but they still need a little bit of water. So most groves are irrigated now. There's a lot of irrigation happening to try and keep the groves alive. Because we can't depend on water like we used to,
Right.
which is a challenge. And then there's a point, so you don't want a lot of water on the tree. Too much rain actually makes it's very similar to grapes, tired, boring, uncharacteristically flat. If you have an overwatered or irrigated tree sometimes, where if you have a stressed tree, you'll get more character, flavor
Right.
profile, whatnot, out of your oil, higher antioxidant content, whatnot. And then on the other side of climate change is of warm winters. So when you have a warm winter, again, like Greece, it was 20 degrees in the middle of January.
Wow.
That's way too hot. The trees they don't like cold, but they need at least 2 weeks of, 5 to 10 degrees to just have a little rest, take a breath, be dormant exactly before they wake up and know it's spring. And if you have consistent, 20 degrees throughout the winter time, the trees don't know when to wake up again. And so then you have less blossom, you don't have good fruit set, there's just low pollination rate, poor yield, exactly. And so that over and over again is really challenging. So speaking to the market, this year was actually a pretty good year for fruit set and yield in Spain. Fruit wise, we'll see how the actual oil turns out. But the past 3 years, there's always a cyclical harvest because the trees don't. They blossom every year, but they only blossom on second year growth. So there's always a bumper year and then a lower yield. And with Spain, they had basically drought and no crop. And then they had a really warm winter, no rain. So again, what would have been a better year was not a great year. And then again, a lower year. So they had 3 years of really, really, really low volumes. And one of the things that most people don't realize is that when you buy a bottle at the store, the expiration date on that bottle is based on bottling date, not based on harvest date.
Right.
So if you buy a bottle and it says, it's good until now 2027, that means it was bottled in 2025. It doesn't mean that oil is from 2025. So in Spain, they have tank farms, millions and millions of liters of tank farms. And last July, they were all empty because all the reserves from years and years and years were gone.
Oh, boy.
So there was no oil. And so that made the price go, haywire because there was no oil. They used up all the reserves.
And so before they used up the reserves, before they had to, would they hold on to the reserves to control price?
Exactly. So they hold on to the reserve to control price and inventory. Because of course, if you're going to have a higher yield one year and then a lower, yield the next year, you're trying to even it out so that the market has consistent volume. Because you only harvest from beginning of October to the middle of January at best. Ideally you're finishing harvest mid-December. So you've got 8 weeks to make a year and a half supply of oil. And, we like to eat seasonally, but not that seasonally.
Right. Yeah. So we're coming into harvest season now. Have you got plans to go to any groves and take part in harvest?
I was hoping to this year, but I don't think I'm going to be able to.
No.
Yeah, this year. Next year for sure. I'm taking a master's program at the University of Jaén in the south of Spain, and I was hoping to get a couple modules done this fall, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Huh.
Yeah. But I was there last year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So are we to expect, because of this past 3 years and the fact that Spain produces 50% of the world's olive oil, are we going to be running into serious escalation in prices because of how depleted the reserves are?
I don't think so, honestly. We aren't seeing the bottles of Bertolli at $45 like we were a couple of years ago. Prices have leveled out a little bit, and I think that we expect to see kind of similar pricing to what we have now going forward. I don't think we'll see those spikes because last year was a good yield for Spain. So even though there isn't a lot of oil, they're starting to kind of refill those reserves a little bit. So, I don't think it'll be as volatile as it was. But one of the things I always recommend is buy closer to the grove, because if you are buying Bertolli, for example, or Colavito or any Filippo Berio, there's so many of them, general commodity oils that you find at the grocery store. They've gone through at least 6 hands to be able to get there.
Right.
So, you're talking about the grower, you're talking about the miller, you're talking about the cooperative, you've got the distributor, you've got the broker. There's so many hands. Everyone's taking their piece. So when I was looking, especially those years ago, you've got Bertolli or one of those commodity oils at $45 or $50 for a liter. And then you look at a beautiful farm to table bottle, essentially, that's maybe $2 more or $2 less. And the quality of that oil will be exponentially better than the commodity oil. And it's just because there's less hands. There might be 2 hands between the farmer
more
and
money
the
going to the farmer?
Exactly. So more money's going to the farmer. You're getting a higher quality product. Let's support the farmers if we're spending that much anyway on the bottle. But it was really interesting to have that period where there was so little price discrepancy. And I've always said that price and quality are not in sync with olive oil. The higher the price does not mean the better the quality of the oil. So.
Yeah, would you like to talk about the how as a consumer I feel duped, or I feel like
Emily wants to talk about how you feel, dude.
Well, me personally only, really, as consumers of olive oil.
Well, I mean, Sam's brain.
You've already broken my brain saying with what extra virgin olive oil is, because I was sure it was just the first press, but no go. So I feel duped about that. Wait,
there's no need to press it twice.
Calen, how do you feel about this? No.
My feeling's neutral on how you're feeling about it.
Perfect. Well, Emily, how do I feel about this?
Well, I would say that it's our most used and most misunderstood kitchen staple. Most people don't actually know what is in their bottle. I can't count the number of trade shows I've been to where, I walk up and they tell me this beautiful story about this amazing family. I'm like, great, what's in the bottle? And they're like, olive oil.
Wow.
Okay. Let's, is it Nocellara? Is it Cordoniki? What's the varietal? Can you imagine walking up to a wine guy and being like, hey,
it's wine.
It's wine.
It's red.
Yeah, exactly. That's not going to be the right answer. But with olive oil, it is. There's so little
information.
Do
you do that deliberately just to...
You know what I mean? I do.
Yeah, mess with Sam.
But I do, because I want to know if they actually know what is in their bottle. Have you done a chemical analysis on it? What's going on with this oil? Because if you're going to charge me $30 or $45 for a bottle, I really want to know what's inside. If I'm going to spend that much on a bottle of wine, of course I'm going to know, what it is, and I want to know the quality and all those things. So, it's just so interesting. So most people don't know what extra virgin is, which makes it really hard on the store shelf. The other challenge is that if you have any products that are bottled in Europe, you're not allowed to put tasting notes on the bottle.
Oh. Why?
There's no description. So again, mafia, they don't want the producer to deceive the customer. So because they're worried that they're going to put something on the bottle that might not be accurate or might not be the same, or describe the oil accurately, whatnot, they won't let anybody put any tasting notes or description. So it also means that you need to learn what the different cultivars are. If you're looking for Cab Sauv or you're looking for Riesling, of course they taste different. We need to know that Coronicchi tastes like bananas and that Licino tastes like apples and Frantoio tastes like arugula. Learning what those cultivars are and what they mean. If you see those words on a bottle, most people don't know what they are, but it identifies the flavor profile of the oil in many ways. So but it makes it really hard for the consumer, especially in North America, to, we don't have a big knowledge of the...
Well, the knowledge is olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. That's it.
And extra virgin olive oil is healthy for you and anything else isn't. Is that
is that accurate?
Is there a truth to that?
There is some truth to that because olive oil, if it doesn't have a prefix, olive oil on a bottle is a chemically refined oil. It's chemically refined. It's been stripped of most of its nutrients, and so it doesn't have the same health benefits as extra virgin does. Virgin can have some health benefits, of course. It won't necessarily be as high, or it could be as high. Again, the chemical analysis will tell you all of that. But a virgin oil has sensory defects. So there's fermentation. There's, it tastes like mold, or it's rancid, or there's other things going on. But one of the interesting things with that is that what we don't think about is that consuming a rancid oil is a known carcinogen because if you're consuming free radicals, that's not helping remove the inflammation from our system. It's not helping with all the health benefits. So we pick a bottle of extra virgin olive oil off the shelf and we assume it's extra virgin grade, which it's not actually tested in North America. It's an unregulated food item here. So, there isn't a need for producers to actually get the chemical analysis done if they want to sell it in the Canadian market. So you can have extra virgin on a label and no one's actually checking to make sure that that is actually extra virgin grade. And the CFIA says that on their website. They're like, if you find an oil that's not extra virgin, let us know. Great.
Like if you do your own research, basically, let us know if they're misrepresenting their product.
Yeah, exactly. And then we'll go, chat with them. But that's the extent of regulation here. So, but again, consuming extra virgin olive oil is incredibly healthy because it has such a high antioxidant content and there's so many micronutrients in it. It's really incredible. But again, those leave over time. The oil oxidizes. Every oil is heading towards oxidation. It's always headed that way. And if you're consuming a rancid product, then you're not consuming the health benefits because they've been used up in the oxidation process.
Right. So it's best to keep your olive oil in a glass bottle,
Correct.
dark glass
Always,
bottle, airtight if possible.
Yeah,
keep
exactly.
The oxygen off.
Totally.
The light off.
Yep. All of those things.
Are we talking a couple of years? Like how long on average does olive oil
So it's
last?
12 to 18 months from harvest.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's
But
why
you're not going to know that because of the bottle date.
Exactly. So that's why it's important to look on a bottle and find a harvest date.
Right.
Yeah. So look for a harvest date when you're buying your products because you can, try and play the math. Be a detective, look at the bottling date. This is this is the expiration date. This is when it was bottled. This is likely the harvest it's from. But yeah, you always want to look for a harvest date on the bottle because that's what matters.
In terms of the oxidation of the oil, since we don't know when it's come to us, can you assume that it's going to be probably okay until you open it, and then as soon as you open it, it's going to start to degrade really quickly?
Yes. So the 12 to 18 months from harvest is in a sealed bottle. The moment you open that bottle, you've got 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks to consume it. Yeah. So it is important to kind of, I always say buy small, consume quickly. Go through your oil. Don't save it.
Bottle.
Yeah, don't save it for special occasions. This is definitely like if you've got new fresh oil, just use it.
And
use it on everything.
Dumping it out. Like I'm thinking, like we don't do a ton of cooking at home. We do at times, and we've got a bottle of olive oil, but I'm pretty sure that bottle's been there for like 3 years. Should we be dumping it?
Amazing stainless steel polish, really good shaving cream.
Great shaving.
It would, There's alternative uses. Like I use it for furniture polish. Like I said, great stainless steel polish. There's lots of uses for it. Just maybe not.
Don't consume it.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So now, the next question I've got for you: do you still have your store? Are you selling olive oil in Victoria?
No.
Okay.
No.
So where would somebody get good olive oil, and what brand or what importer or what would you recommend?
Yeah, there's lots of great places to get good oil here in Victoria for sure. Interestingly enough, Market on Millstream and Market on Yates have a really good selection.
Okay.
The Root Cellar has some good oil. Of course, Atavios, if you're looking for some really special products in Oak Bay, have a really beautiful selection. There's lots of good places. Market Garden is another place. They have some really great bottled products that are wonderful. Yeah, there's lots of good spots to go. One importer that I personally love is Michael Favuzzi. He's from Montreal, but he has a big presence here in in Victoria and on the West Coast, and he is the other olive oil sommelier, my counterpart.
Oh.
But his father started importing olive oil many years ago. He took over the company and has expanded it greatly, and his oils are always wonderful. He has 3 Apparenzzana from Puglia that is very floral and delicate. It's a beautiful oil. Great for salads, good for sauces, cream sauces, especially aioli, anything like that. Great for cooking with as well. And then he has a medium oil. It's a Manzanillo from the south of Spain, and it's quite herbaceous and has these beautiful, like, it's very fresh cut grass, artichoke, a hint of green almond, but it's very herbaceous in its character. And then he has a Coratina from the south of Italy, and it's super spicy. It's got notes of like Granny Smith apple mixed with like mustard greens and arugula and radicchio and like a nice capsicum finish on the back of your palate, which I love. I call it my steak oil. It's really great for like chimichurris. It can stand up to tomato-based sauces and, things that have a lot of flavor in them. That oil's not disappearing. So yeah, it's a great oil.
Do you add your olive oil to your food after it's cooked, or do you cook with it?
I always cook with it.
You cook with it,
I typically layer it throughout the dish, but that's 100% the biggest myth with olive oil is don't cook with it. Please cook with it.
Yeah.
So oleocanthal is the main antioxidant that's found in olive oil. It's actually what gives you that peppery finish on the back of your palate when you're tasting it. So oil should always have kind of some spice to it. Should always be peppery, and that pepper is oleocanthal, and it's not damaged as much by heat than other phenols. So there's been some really interesting articles and studies done at the University of Barcelona where they've been studying the connection of olive oil and food, and they've made like sofrito, basic Italian soup base essentially, and they saute olive oil, and they take a measurement of all the antioxidants and all the ingredients raw, and then they start cooking it, and at 5-minute intervals they test the overall antioxidant content. And if it's cooked in extra virgin olive oil, the overall antioxidant content is greater. So the oil actually helps coax the phenols and the other nutrients out of the vegetables, and then it makes the antioxidants in olive oil more bioavailable as well, because they're hydrophilic, so they're attracted to water. So if you just take that like 2 tablespoon shot of olive oil in the morning, which is definitely a trending thing, it's fine. X is a good lubricant. You're getting really good, nutrients from it, of course, but the best way to consume your oil is with food, because you need to add water, lemon juice, salad, something to be able to help those antioxidants be pulled out of the oil.
Yeah, it's got to break it down.
Exactly.
Whatever,
and then our system will also slow down and actually consume. Like
otherwise, it'll just flush through.
Totally.
Yeah.
We found that out with the Starbucks Oleato experiment.
Oh.
They started using olive oil in their lattes.
I kind of.
They're trying to say it was a health benefit to put it in their lattes.
Yeah, and it honestly, I will whisk olive oil into whipped cream. I have definitely foamed it into milk for lattes, and it's delicious. But you're adding diuretic plus.
It's diuretic to a diuretic.
It's makes for interesting mornings.
So the kids didn't like it at school.
Nope.
No.
Well, the whole oil thing. I remember I went to a naturopath, and at the time I had been diagnosed with diabetes. And she's like, and it was like, I wasn't like blown right out, but I was diabetic technically. So she gave me some coconut oil and gave me too much of it. Well, that's the end result was I went to the nearest bathroom, which happened to be at Cook Street, and I was like almost dying, like literally felt, I was going to throw up, and everything just removed from my system, and literally. And I called her and said, I gave you too much of the oil. So the diuretic sort of effect of it did wonders for my blood, because it just dropped my blood sugars to nothing, but then I almost passed out, so it wasn't good.
It's a balance.
Your system has used to it.
But it's interesting, the whole cooking effect with the olive oil too, because so typically you'd want to be for the health benefits, you'd want to be cooking with olive oil exclusively versus canola oil or whatever, right?
And a lot of the studies that have been done, Crete and Greece, thinking about like the Mediterranean diet and, again, the health benefits associated with it, they use like 20-ish liters per person per year. It's the only oil they use, where the Canadian average is around a liter per person per year. So they're using 20 times the volume of oil.
Oh my God.
And there is a health
Yeah.
So their outcomes are way better than our outcomes.
Absolutely. And 20 to 30% of the calorie intake in their diet comes from olive oil. Like that's
30%.
Yeah, the caloric intake.
So what are they putting it in everything?
Yeah, literally, like whisk it into scrambled eggs. It goes into the pan. I'll never forget this one meal I had in Greece. This like pitcher landed on the table, and I thought, oh great, they've brought us like no one puts water on the table in Europe, so it's like great, we can refill our water glasses. No, that was a pitcher of oil to go on all of our food. Like, and we went through an entire pitcher of like lemon juice, olive oil, and some oregano. And it went on the fish, it went on the octopus, it went on the veggies. Like, we just poured it on everything.
What?
We would not do that here. But, that's what they do. They consume copious amounts of olive oil, and they're
it's the whole
healthy.
good fat component of it, too. We don't eat enough because this whole movement of no fat, and we sucked all the fat out of everything because we're afraid of it. Meanwhile, if you eat a high-fat diet, like good fat, obviously, way better outcomes. Your blood sugar is way easier to control.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I knew that because after I got diagnosed and my doctor said lose a bunch of weight, I did keto for 6 months. I'm not advocating doing keto, but eating it taught me to eat higher fat, avocados every day, more olive oil, coconut oil, things like that. And you lose, your body just sheds.
Exactly.
Fat.
And I was working with a professor at the University of Cordoba, and he was sharing that they've started to do studies to see the resiliency of the different like omega-3, 6, and 9. And if you consume olive oil, it's the highest concentration naturally of omega-9. And oleic acid, that molecule, is the building block for our cell walls. So whatever oil you consume, whether you're eating French fries, whatever that is, like whatever, even if you're not just drinking that oil or consuming it, in a salad dressing or whatever, whatever fat, that's the makeup of our cell walls. And omega-9s are incredibly resilient, and so they prevent cell death compared to omega-3s and omega-6s. And
so you're gonna live longer.
Yeah, so they really can show that like consuming olive oil creates not just the anti-inflammation, but you're also creating like cells that are more resilient to cell death and apoptosis. So, and that's with whatever oil you're consuming, which is crazy to think like I am drinking this or I have a salad and then that's our bodies are breaking that down to make new cells. It's like they can tell what you eat based on
well, and it can make sense because you always we eat and all the stuff, but to have a whole entire population gaslit about fat and how bad oil is, it's crazy.
It is. And our bodies were never intended to consume a refined oil. And I think that's a big challenge within why a lot of these misconceptions were founded, because when we started chemically refining oils and extracting oils from seeds in the 1920s and modern refining practices were kind of refined, they started to realize that our bodies were never intended to actually consume it. Like it's a chemically refined, chemically extracted product. Our body doesn't know what to do with that. So when you have olive oil that's squished, that's all it is. It's like you're just it's a natural product. It's a natural process, it's a natural product. There's no chemicals involved. Like that's what our body was intended to consume.
How is it that we can produce canola oil then? Like, I mean, that's a purely manufactured product.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there is no, like, I think about this through my learning of climate change and all that stuff. And when you had cows and buffalo grazing hay, which is grass, which is a carbon capture, where wheat and canola fields, cornfields, I guess, aren't. Like there's no environmental benefit to a cornfield versus a hay field or natural grass. And even that whole process with buffaloes and cow free range and feeding off the grass, it brings it down to the husk, which then the husk grows. So it's
and no tillage
and the manure and all that kind of stuff. It's all a part of nature. And then they plant these mass crops that are high yield to the profit bottom line for them, I'm sure. But why are we eating it? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
But I don't know what the alternative is. Like, we can't use olive oil for our fryer. Like,
Yeah,
literally.
Can you?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can?
you actually can. Yeah, they're actually doing.
That's it. Olive oil at Big Wheel.
Yes.
Burger price is going up, probably, but
Right. You can't believe the price of fries now.
Yeah.
well, I mean, I don't know how many liters it is. It's not. I don't even know how it. But we buy canola oil, and I think it's around $50 for a container like this. So
yeah, it's probably 20 liters.
Probably
10 liters?
20
Is it 20 liters? 20 liters.
20 liters, yeah.
So how much would that be in olive oil?
Well, that's a good question. So to be honest, I'm not sure, but if you wanted to experiment with
Yeah.
it, a friend of mine is actually working with some restaurants in New York to have them put extra virgin olive oil in their deep fryers, and they're making a blend. So another, it's a food service company out of California, Corto. They're one of the largest olive oil producers in California, and they exclusively sell to food service, and they do a blend of extra virgin, I think it's rice bran, and another oil that is intentionally made for fryers, and it's incredible. It's really incredible. So yeah, you can definitely. So that's again the
Okay, how do
points.
I? You got to help me figure it
Yeah,
out.
I'll hook you up.
Hook me up.
Because yeah, the smoke point of olive oil, because of its resistance, it can be cooked to 425 degrees. So you can definitely cook with it. And
Yeah.
they've been finding that when you put it in a deep fryer and then you cook something for a few, like say 45 minutes, you can top it up with a little bit more oil, and then it'll continue it has a longer shelf life and like a longer resilience to oxidation than canola does. So
Wow.
yeah, there's some really fascinating studies coming out of
So that would make it more affordable because of the yield.
exactly
right?
because of longer time.
Yeah, if you can use 3 days or 4 days versus 2
It
days.
also makes so the way that the fatty acid profile is in extra virgin olive oil versus seed oils is that it doesn't absorb as much into the product. So it actually makes this like crispy coating on the outside, and it like seals the food. So you
So it's
get it
not soaking all
crispier,
the
so
way
it doesn't
through,
soak all the way in. So you're actually consuming less, like you're
And it's
using less
better
product.
for you.
Yeah, and you don't ever feel so like that's why you feel that like ugh, in your gut when you're eating a bunch of fried food is because our bodies were never intended to consume this product. So you feel this like heaviness in your gut, and again, your gallbladder doesn't know what to do with it. So you're consuming extra virgin olive oil. You don't feel gross after you.
Okay, we got to do this.
Yeah.
It'd be a great trial. I would love
Oh my
to
goodness.
taste
Yeah, it'd be really good promotional value too.
Yeah.
And even like obviously costs are part of it, but we're already spending $40 or $50 for 10 or 20 liter container of it. So even if it doubles that, but you get an extra day or 2 days life, then now it's probably only 20% more. Yeah. But I think it's still worth it to do it for the health benefits.
Yeah. Well, it's also climate change too.
Yeah.
These trees are essentially, they're so resilient.
Yeah.
You can cut down on all severe pruning is cut down the tree. Like once they're established, they're good to go. There's so like the water component, there's so many different factors that make olives so much more sustainable than almost any other crop. The one grove that I work with in Spain, they were carbon neutral in 2011.
Oh,
like
wow.
Before
it was cool.
Before it was cool, they were carbon neutral.
We were carbon neutral in 2011.
That's amazing.
You were before you were cool.
Before it was cool.
Yeah, very amazing.
I always thought I was cool.
Yeah, before it was
but
cool.
now official cool.
Yeah. And it's because the trees are so good at capturing carbon. Yeah, there's such a great carbon sink.
Do the groves need to be sprayed? Are olives fairly pest resistant? Do they need more nutrients that they can't get from the ground?
Pretty much no.
No.
It's very rare for them to spray. Fungus is probably the only thing that could be an issue. But most of the time, like I never look for organic on a bottle. And the reason for that is that it's very, very rare to ever spray. If they do, they use copper at the beginning of the year, right after harvest, to prevent olive knot if any branches are broken, but that would never touch the fruit. And again, copper's natural.
Yeah.
It's not an issue. And but the only real pest for the olives is the olive fly, and they haven't found a treatment for it. So they put pheromone traps in the grove. So it just looks like, literally like yellow fly traps that are just hanging in the trees. And then that's where the flies go. And that's really the only enemy other than climate.
So,
the olive fly.
So if you have the right climate, can you grow olives anywhere?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you grow them here?
So there's one small olive grove on Salt Spring Island. It's the only olive oil producing grove in Canada.
Oh, wow.
And it's like the south facing slope. If you ever drive over to Salt Spring and take the Fulford Ferry, you drive down Fulford Ganges Road, and there's that huge steep hill.
Yeah.
They're just on the right if you're going up the hill. And it's Canada's only olive oil producing grove. So.
Is that because they're kind of drier?
Yeah, so the
on Salt
slope
Spring?
helps,
Okay.
and then again south facing, so they get more sun. It's a challenge. Like Sherry and George work so hard to
Get a yield.
exactly, to get it off the ground. And so much heartbreak with, like, we get a winter storm, or trees would be breaking, and so many things. They've just worked so incredibly hard to be able to make that a go.
Well, I can't wait to go to Salt Spring and explore that.
I can't wait to try Big Wheel Burger fries that are cooked in olive oil.
Me
too.
too. I do have a current pressing question.
Yes.
Is import into Canada of olive oil or olives being impacted by tariffs at all right now? And if so, what does that look like for the industry?
So yes and no. Thank goodness for CETA. We still have the Canadian-European Free Trade Agreement. Like, that is still in place. So if you're importing directly into Canada, no tariff issues at all. We are still very good friends with Europe. If your oil is coming to America and then coming up to Canada, that is more of a challenge.
Is that fairly common?
It is fairly common.
Yeah,
correct.
Okay.
I would say more volume that way, I would think.
Exactly. So the interesting thing is that so olive oil it always has had a duty on it. So tariffs aren't necessarily new, but it is a challenge definitely now coming into America. There's 10 to 15% tariff, depending on bulk bottled, that kind of thing, coming into the States. The challenge is actually just getting good oil in Canada, period, because the American market is one of the largest in the world, and because they consume so much olive oil, everybody wants to get their oil to the States.
Right.
But we have a small population and a very big space. So,
distribution, it's like anything liquid is very hard to distribute.
Exactly. So it's hard
It's
for
expensive.
them to get it across the border, especially with the dollar. So I would say the exchange rate's probably affecting it more than anything at this point to get good quality oil at a reasonable price across the border, because there isn't a lot of incentive for producers to get their oils north.
So you're a friend who's a distributor in Montreal, must have a lot of personal contacts in Europe.
Correct. And he's importing directly to Canada. So again, avoiding a lot of those other issues, which is really amazing.
And is he able to do that and supply the West Coast as well?
Yeah. So one of his big decisions was to skip Ontario.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
We had a really big conversation about that.
Volume, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. So he decided to. He didn't want to play the game.
Yeah.
And so he put a warehouse in Calgary, and he said, I'm going to do the west of Canada. And he focuses on Quebec,
Smart.
Atlantic, and he actually has a different distributor for Ontario. He just said, no, I'm not going to play that game. So he
what game is that?
just the grocery game, the distribution game, because it's so crowded. The Ontario market is very, very crowded, and it's where everyone wants to go. And so he decided to come west, and so he has a big warehouse in Calgary, and I think it's great. I love that I can get his oil easily here.
Yeah.
So where do you buy? Do you buy it direct from him, or is it available in the stores?
Yeah, no. So Market on Mill Street, Market at Gates,
gotcha.
Root Cellar. I think even Save on Foods has some of it.
Yeah.
There's lots of places where you can get it here. And he has a whole sales team in the Lower Mainland and
so
the
skipping
island.
Ontario doesn't have to pay all the listing fees and all that other garbage that happens.
Yeah, and he'd prefer to work with Overweighty and other rather than the Loblaws of the world. And those kinds of things. Yeah. So
I like
Sobeys,
all more now.
They're cutthroat.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so, I think his philosophy is like, how can I get a good quality product at a reasonable price into people's hands? So,
love it.
that's what he's done, and he's done an incredible job at it.
Oh my goodness. Well,
I love Michael.
You obviously have so much information. You could write a book. Oh wait, you have. You've got a book coming out in a couple of years, but But if people want to follow up and find out more information, recipes, how to use olive oil, a little history of olive oil, where do they buy your books, and how many do you have now?
Wherever books are sold.
Wherever books are sold.
Yeah.
That's like the same place you can find.
Where do you buy your coffee? Wherever coffee is sold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, all the usual suspects is where you can find the books. Yeah, and I know they have copies at Chapters Indigo here in town at Mayfair. So
are they all the same name? All your books?
No, so there's the first one was the Olive Oil and Vinegar Lovers Cookbook, and that came out 10 years ago, which is crazy.
Wow.
And then there's the Recipe for Olive Oil and Vinegar Lovers series. So there's Italy, Spain, Greece, and Syria in that series, and so that's 50 recipes, each kind of themed on those 4 countries. And then A Rising Tide and Cedar and Salt are like West Coast and East Coast, but those aren't olive oil related.
Okay.
And then there's the second edition of the Olive Oil and Vinegar Lovers Cookbook. So yeah, but they're wherever, wherever.
Awesome.
Wherever and everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, and then the new book is coming up. I'm just diving into the first round of edits, so it'll be spring 2027. But I'm excited about that one.
It seems far away, but I guess it'll come up pretty quick.
It's like making a movie,
right?
it's like
Yeah,
a year to
that's
write,
right.
and then it's a year of like editing and design and proofreading and copy editing and all of that. And then it takes about 6 months for printing and distribution as well.
And from your first book till your current book,
Mhm.
as that process, have you kind of fine-tuned your process? And
I think every book is different, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely familiar with the process at this point.
yeah, I guess you
so-
know what to expect
Exactly.
now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I always operate under the, I know the material. This is what I love to do. This is what I know. I'm not a book designer. I had a meeting with my editor yesterday, and she's like, do you want it this way or this way? I was like, I don't care. Have fun.
Yeah.
This is not, I don't care how it looks. You make it look pretty.
I put the words in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like, I don't, I work on the pictures. I can do that. Yeah. You do you, I do me. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this book turns out, though. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Emily, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
It's so incredible when we get guests that have this world of knowledge, but are just kind of coexisting with everybody. But I would have never known this whole olive thing, just like when we had Andrew Moyer and talked about bees.
Yeah, right.
Like it just expands the mind. And the idea that we could cook fries with olive oil,
Totally.
let's go. Let's try that.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Let's, okay.
Say we're getting Big Wheel every week at least anyway. I
Nice.
can't wait for all of them.
Yeah, let's go. Olive oil fries.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
I can't wait. So we'll
Would
do
they
that.
be curly fries?
Bro.
Okay.
Easy, man. Easy. We got tater tots. We got curly fries. We got how much?
They're all going
They're
in
only
the
like
olive oil.
1,500 square foot spots, right? Like,
I want
where are we
curly
putting
fries,
all these
man.
fries?
No.
I have a friend that and this guy is from Vancouver, but he's a fry aficionado. And he rails me every time. He sends me, he just sent me a text yesterday. Every time he goes and has fresh cut fries somewhere, he'll take a picture of it and send it to me. Because he's like, why aren't you doing fresh cut fries? And I'm like, bro, do you understand how much space you need for that? Because you have to have the potatoes. Then you've got to blanch them. Then you've got to store them. Then you've got to cook them. And the consistency is pretty bad. So yeah, I get we sell frozen fries, but there's certain logistics that we can't. But anyway,
Yeah.
he's
Look at In-N-Out Burger, and the guy's like, bang.
well, and he wants us all.
It's crazy.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they just fired the amount of fries. We sell a lot of French fries, and I'd like to actually cook in lard, but that again, because of the, I guess, the vegan and the veggie, and this is going to be a very dumb question.
I don't know.
Is olive oil gluten free?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Cute. Like it's all the things. I laugh when I look at a bottle and they're like, I've got 8 certifications.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, okay, you're vegan, you're non-GMO,
Yeah.
you're gluten free. Like, come on.
Well, this is the whole thing.
You're pumice
Even
free.
the whole organic thing is literally there's farms that are doing all the organic stuff,
Yeah.
but the certification costs you $100,000 or $50,000 or whatever. And I'm like, when are we putting all these barriers in for just marketing purposes effectively?
Exactly.
And you can't say you're organic unless you're certified organic, but then the certified, you got to pay the money. Come on.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just,
My favorite
Let's
with
get real.
olives is that you have to show that the soil was chemical free for 5 years before the trees were planted. You got 250-year-old trees. Ooh. Why are you like?
How do you do that? Oh, the Europeans are coming up with weird rules for coffee like that too for the African continent. They're making sure now, and it's about to go into effect, that they won't import any green beans without a certification that the land hadn't been deforested before.
Come on, man!
It's like that. It's pretty awful.
So you're gonna go back to the beginning of time?
Yeah.
Like, oh my!
Let's curl out the parchment and find the records for chemicals that we didn't have.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like what?
Prove something that never happened. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That'll be really hard.
I can't do it, but it'll cost me a lot of money to try not to do it.
All right. Well, thank you, Emily. Appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you
so much
again
for making time and coming, educating us.
Yeah, and do you have like a website or if somebody's listening and they want to find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah, I'm the olive oil critic.
Olive oil critic.
Yeah, so oliveoilcritic.com.
Perfect.
That's
Love it.
easy.
Easy.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
That was fantastic.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
Thank you, Calen.
Have a good day. Be real kind.
I will. You be really nice.
I'll try.
You will.
It's really hard.
You will.
Really
You're
hard.
a nice guy.
Oh, it's really hard. Love you.
You too, man. Cheers.
Right, cheers.
Bread and Butter Collective's membership includes the following local businesses: 2% Jazz, Bunny's Kitchen, Buzz Coffee House, Eagle-Ite, Big Wheel Burger, Blue Mountain Solutions, Bodega Tapas Wine Bar, Eva Schnitzel House, Farmsgate Foods and Catering, Victoria Chocolate and Company, Drum Roaster Coffee, Habit Coffee, Foo Asian Street Food, the Culinary Arts Program at Camosun, Cafe Fantastico, Fall Epi, Harold Street Brewworks, Hey Happy, House of Botang, Nikkei Ramen Ya, Jenny Marie's Cracker Company, La Pasta, La Rue Patisserie, Mocha House, Part and Parcel, Poco a Pinto Bar, Pizzeria Prima Strada, Keating Pizza, Roast, Table 9 Consulting, Sherwood Cafe and Bar, Sweets by Selena, The Collective Wine Bar and Kitchen, The Drake, Tapa Bar, The Nimble Bar Company, Ruth and Dean, The Whole Beast, The Wienery, Spoon's Diner, Truffles-Inspired Catering, and Zambries.
To hear more from the Bread and Butter Collective, go to checknews.ca/podcasts on Check Plus, or find us on your favorite podcasting platform.